Namaste, and my name is Anuradha Goyal. I'm here because of all these books that you see behind me, and I'm going to tell a little bit of my story through these books. So, by education, I am a science student. I did my master's degree in computer science, worked in IT industry for a very long time. And while I was working right here in this city during the early 2000s, I started writing a travel blog, or a blog rather. So as a corporate employee or a corporate citizen, I would travel on weekends, corporate leisure travel, read a lot of books and write about them on a blog. It was just an experiment. I had no plan. It was a leisure activity experiment. But little did I know that this is going to define the course of my life. And I started writing. I kept writing, and my travels kept getting deeper and deeper and deeper. And parallelly, I was also studying and consulting in business innovation. So my first book, this was my first book, The Mouse Charmers, published by Penguin and with a foreword by Sam Pitroda ji. This was about the pioneering digital entrepreneurs of India. So this is the first book that told the story of the likes of Flipkart, Shadi.com, Make My Trip, Big Basket. The first stories that ever appeared in a book was this. This was used by a lot of B schools for teaching case studies on the digital environment in the country. I classified digital companies into 3 parts: content, commerce, and community. And that is what it continues to be pretty much till date. Okay. But since I was traveling, I also started studying temple architecture, heritage buildings. I also started reading a lot of books on those. My readers started giving me a lot of feedback. So from business innovation, I started writing about travels, blog about travels. My blog became one of the most read blogs in the country and in the globe. And it continues to be. I've been writing since 2004. So lot of that blogging happened. That is my blog, In Details, travel blog from India. And that's my podcast called Detours. And the next big book that I wrote was Lotus in the Stone, the pink one right here, which is about my discovery of India, which is my discovery of my own rich cultural roots. What you see on top, the 3 black titles, that's a series on temples of India that I wrote. The first book is called Unusual Temples of India. Very, very unusual temples, unusual deities, unusual rituals. Yes. And the second book is called Cave Temples of India. Very evident cave temples. And the third one is called Devi Temples of India. And this is when Devi kind of enticed me, and I co-edited a book on Navaratri, where we documented 16 kshetras of India as they celebrate Navaratri. It's the same festival, same dates, same Devi that is worshipped, but every region thinks it's ours. Bengalis think Durga Puja is not Navaratri. It is. Gujaratis think Navaratri is Garba, is nothing else. No, it is the same deity, the manifestation, the expression is different. This is when my travels kept getting deeper and deeper and deeper. And then I had visited Ayodhya. In fact, around 22nd January, when Pran Pratishtha of Ayodhya Ram Mandir happened, one of my video clips about Ayodhya went viral, where I spoke about my experience of visiting Ayodhya and how I did not want to see Ram Lalla in tent anymore. I got an opportunity to study Ayodhya. I spent a lot of time, and I recreated a map of Ayodhya as it is defined in Skanda Puran. And then Ayodhya Shodh Sansthan commissioned a book, and that is the book Ayodhya Mahatmya that I wrote. So you see, from business innovation to this book. And then about 6-7 years back, as my travels got deeper, I started reading original Indian scriptures in Sanskrit plus Hindi. And I started talking about them on my social media, and a lot of people were intrigued. A lot of people had a lot of questions, and I had the same questions when I started my journey. So I wrote this book called How to Read Indian Scriptures, which tries to answer all the mental blocks that we have about reading original scriptures. Somehow we think we are very distant from them. The constant feedback that I get is that we never thought that we can hold a Ved or a Puran in our hand, read it and understand it. We thought it will only tell us do this puja in the morning, this puja in the afternoon, this puja in the evening. No, that's probably 0.1% of them. 99.9% of it tells us the wisdom, the age-old wisdom, the time-tested wisdom which is based on a lot of data, wisdom which has been filtered through generations and that has reached us. And that's when I started teaching some of these. So I conduct a workshop on Durga Saptashati every Navratri. I teach a workshop on Panchang, which is the science behind Indian calendar. And believe me, I have done that workshop for so many school students. And every time students have come back to me and said, ma'am, why are we not using this calendar? And I have to tell them it is actually the official calendar of India and you can use it. And I'm trying to work with a lot of schools to start Panchang Vachan as part of morning prayers, or to introduce, the Panchang date that is today as part of our day-to-day things, so that we can look at. In my neighborhood, I tell children always to look at the moon and tell me the tithi today. So a lot of these things have happened. I teach a course on Taittiriya Upanishad and Shiksha Valli of it, especially for teachers, because I have never found a more well-rounded advice for life than a small 12 sentences long convocation address in Taittiriya Upanishad. It tells us exactly what all we need to chase in life. And it doesn't say go earn money. It says you go earn money, but that's one of the 12 things you do. And there's a lot of wisdom in it. So in the interest of time, I have boiled down my learnings, so how my life changed after I started reading scriptures, after I started bringing them in practice in my life. So a lot of things, and since it is Women's Day today, I'll restrict myself to Devi texts, and specifically Devi Mahatmya or Durga Saptashati or Chandi as it is called in eastern part of India. So some of them. The first thing that the scriptures told me, and this is from Taittiriya Upanishad, is Swadhyaya. It says no matter what you do in life, you must invest in two things every day, each day of life. One is Swadhyaya and second is Pravachan. So translated in our terms, it would mean self-learning every day. Every day, at the end of the day, your knowledge should be more than at the beginning of the day. So you should invest that in self-learning, plus sharing that self-learning with others. So if you do these two things, and I was hearing a lot of conversations, and one of the challenges in the modern life is not upskilling ourselves, not updating our own knowledge, not expanding our own knowledge. We think that once we are out of college, we are done with learning everything. No, every day you have to learn, and it need not be dharmic texts. It could be anything that you do in life. It could be anything of your interest. It could be anything that helps you in your career, in your home life, a new recipe, anything. But you must learn something new every day. I'll come to the Devi texts. So, Durga Saptashati has three main stories of Devi. Across Devi texts, there are many, many such stories, but I'll restrict myself to three stories. Now, in these three stories, I get clues to how to manage myself. In one of the stories, the Devi doesn't do anything. There's a huge task to be done. Usually, the task is presented in the form of an Asura who needs to be killed. It could be Mahishasur, it could be Shumbha Nishumbha, it could be Madhu Kaitab, but the task is in the form of an Asura. And if you can think of your challenges in terms of the Asura that you need to kill. So in one of the stories, the Devi simply enables others to do that. In another interpretation, she just pulls herself away from the situation and let other people do it. If there is an enablement needed, she provides that, but she doesn't engage in the fight herself. In the second story, where she kills Mahishasur, now Mahishasur is the mightiest Asura you can have. And this is the asura which you find in sculptures all over temples in India, from Kashmir to Kanyakumari, from east to west. You find it everywhere. Why? Because it's the mightiest asura that was killed, that was to be killed or handled. Now what Devi does is, for this, she collects, or rather she's created out of the collective Shakti of all the devatas and their weapons. She has all their weapons, she has all their Shakti, and that's how she's able to kill. So there are times in our lives when we need to collect all our resources, whatever is at our disposal, or even if we have to beg, borrow, steal, we have to pool in all resources to deal with situation. And the third story of Shumbh Nishumbh, it's something that with all of us will relate to very easily. This is a story where the Devi multiplies herself. And I'm sure every woman today gets up in the morning and wishes she could clone herself. I wish I could have 4 of us. I wish I could have 4 hands. I wish I could have 16 hands and 4 heads to deal, or I could have 48 hours in a day. So this is a story in which Devi multiplies herself, clones herself, but it also gives a very, very powerful message. She says, every woman is me. But every woman has forgotten that I am her, you know. So we need to get in touch with that inner Shakti and, and unleash that to make our lives easier, and not just for ourselves, but for people around us, you know. So these are the 3 stories that I love to tell. We can go in a lot of detail about how she does and how we can translate that to our situations, but I'll leave that for another day. So, another thing that a lot of people today spoke about is acceptance, that we need to accept. So a lot of time we need to choose between accepting things and not accepting things. That boundary kind of defines what you are going to do and what you are not going to do. And a lot of times we forget to draw that boundary, or we let that boundary expand forever. Let it be this time, we'll look at it next time. Maybe I'll say no next time. So that when you read these texts and when you say, if Devi is drawing a boundary, I can also draw a boundary. When she multiplies herself, she ropes in a lot of other Devis. So we also need to rope in a lot of other Devis to achieve what I want to achieve. Lend help and take help. So since morning, everybody pointed out that we are not as good at asking for help or taking help or lending help. So these kind of forums, and thanks to people like Shalini who are creating these platforms where we can all come together, share our challenges, ask for help, and lend help wherever it is possible, and create that sisterhood, create that, I don't like the word friends as much as I like the word Sakhi. The word Sakhi is, if you read all our Sanskrit literature, the Naika, the heroine, she always has a Sakhi. And that Sakhi is somebody who knows you inside out. And she is somebody who you can completely confide in on all aspects of your life. Our generation, because of the distributed nature of our growing up in multiple cities, we really don't have that deep-rooted relationships where we can be a Sakhi to each other. But we can try. We can all try to be that Sakhi. So that is what. Then my scriptures have also given me a very multi-dimensional view. So I was listening to a lot of challenges that a lot of working women were sharing. While you are saying on one end that I should not be discriminated, if I have to go on a maternity leave, I come back, I should be treated on par. But think about it, a lot of you are small business owners, small SMEs, and you have to think from the perspective of a small business. Can you afford to pay an employee who's not there for a year? Can you do that? Now, it's okay to speak in forums and talk about equality, but the fact is that if I'm a small business and if I have to pay you for a year for doing nothing, it's a challenge for me. It's a challenge for me to manage my P&L statement. So you have to think it from a multidimensional aspect, and so you have to understand the problem from all angles. Most of the times our education system has taught us to think unidimensionally. Third, and one of the most important things that I have learned is the power of network model versus hierarchical model. You know, our education system tells us to compete. So I could see since morning that we talk about fighting, winning over battles, challenges. We are thinking of a hierarchical model where somebody has to be on top and somebody has to be down, whether it's a manager-employee relationship, whether it's a parent-child relationship. But actually, the world is a network model. We are all above you at some point in time, we are all below you. So when somebody else was talking, they were occupying a hierarchically higher position. Right now, I am occupying, 10 minutes later, somebody else will. So all these hierarchical positions in our life are temporal. They are there for a time. They will not be there forever, except maybe your parents, or your guru, if you have one, except those few positions where the hierarchy will remain the same. Even with parents, it changes, the chronological hierarchy remains the same, but as your parents age, they become like your children. So everything is temporal. And keeping that in mind, if you keep that in mind, and you also remember that we are all interdependent on each other. We may think we are organizing this event, I'm the speaker, I'm this, but the moment the electricity goes, the electrician is the most important person. It keeps changing. So if we remember that, our life becomes a little more easier, and we are not stressed out because of the hierarchies which are at this point in time. Satsang. Okay, I'm going to end it with satsang. One of the things which is emphasized every time is satsang, the company of good people that inspires you, that motivates you, that supports you. So I'll finish here by saying thank you to Shalini and team and Parna. So thank you for creating this opportunity for this satsang, and thank you for creating this opportunity where we could all come together and share our stories.